where two first floor extensions are proposed. They're shown in red here. And the approved elevations at existing property are shown here. The matters for consideration are considered to be the impact on visual amenity and impact on residential amenity. Officers consider the proposal would be in keeping with the surrounding pattern of development and have an acceptable impact on the street scenes, both along Hill Road and College Hill, and have an acceptable impact in terms of impact to neighbouring amenity. As such, the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillors, anybody? Councillor Isherwood, then Councillor Dale, then you. Councillor Isherwood.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Just looking at this application, it's a similar density or even better than some of the surrounding properties. It very much complies with the Haslemere design statement. Quality of design, I find, in keeping with the area. I look at some of the comments that are made already here. It would feature handmade clay roof tiles, i.e. quality. They could have done with concrete tiles a whole lot cheaper, you know. So this is going to fit in with that part of Haslemere. I'm absolutely sure of it. I would ask, though, that when we look at the conditions, conditions 7 and 12 are the same. I think we could delete one of those and we could add a further condition. Olivia. We could add a further condition that restricts the hours of operation. We should have this as a standard condition, as with the 7 kilowatt electric charging. It should be standard on every application that comes before. We've asked for this time and time again. We have failed to do that. So the hours of operation Monday to Friday is 8 to 1800. Saturday is 8 to 1300. No working Sunday or bank holidays. I've just been troubled, should we say, to a slight extent by being called out at 10 o'clock at night when someone was laying tarmac. Not a quiet procedure. And another one in my ward at 5:30 in the morning when they'd started work on a building site. It is essential that we have these conditions in so that we can get enforcement on to protect people who live in the area, in the residential areas. So totally in favour with this. I think it's a lovely design. It fits in with the Haslemere hillside, with the conservation area, with everything else. But I would like the conditions amended.
Patrick.
Thank you, Councillor Isherwood. Thank you, Chair. The point taken, condition 12 will be removed and replaced by hours of construction. Just to be clear, we have actually considered the hours of construction condition, and that ordinarily would have been picked up by our environmental health in terms of construction, but we have recently just informed our officers to ensure that hours of construction in built-up areas are included as well. It does have an implication in terms of the workload on our enforcement team, but we're going to see how that goes and review it as we go along. But thank you for bringing it to our attention, and we will include it.
Oh, one could say that's what the enforcement team are there for. Right, okay. But there we are. Anyway, Councillor Deere.
Thank you, Chairman. I go along with a great deal of what has just been said. I think the one planning vulnerability of the project would be the degree to which this would overlook or potentially overlook adjoining properties. That seems to me the vulnerability. Although I note from the various conditions that planting is specified to a certain height, and that the roof, what could be the flat roof terrace or the roof terrace on the flat roof may not be occupied without further consent. So I have sympathy for those folk who are concerned about the overlooking aspect of this, but I think with the conditions that have been specified, those concerns are allayed, and I'm happy to support this application.
Thank you very much. Councillor Beanie.
Thank you, Chairman. I agree with all that's been said about the design and quality of the building. My problem is the actual access into Cottage Hill. As we all know, it's a very tight, bendy road. If the officer could bring up those pictures of the traffic and parking. You can see from this one that cars are already parked near to that other existing driveway. And if you go back to the other picture, which shows it even better, the junction, that's the one. You can see on the right there that that's prior to the driveway, and commuters, unfortunately, of course, use this area a lot. It is a narrow road, it has bends on it, so I am concerned about the safety of the access. Having said that, highways have passed it. I don't know how we get better sight lines on, because the height of that hedge, as you can see, will stop any sight line out onto the road. Then if you have vehicles on the road, I think that could become dangerous. However, if it's close enough to the other driveway and they share their view, it may well help by decreasing the number of parked vehicles by one and increasing the view if that driveway is shared at the entranceway. Thank you.
Is there any other Councillor?
Councillor James. I fully support it, and I think it's very nice that we've got an application of a well-designed house, not being greedy, not making it into little flats, or putting 2 or 3 small houses in it, which other people would. And I think it should be commended that other applicants should follow suit.
Councillor. Any other councillor wish to speak? No? Okay.
That's unanimous in favour.
Right, onwards we go. Item B. Item B3, 2019-0086, Hawthorns, the street Dockinfield, G10 4JA. A proposal. Erection of extension and alterations as amended by plans received on 2nd of July 2019, following demolition of the existing garage. And this time it's Philippa to.
Thank you, Chairman, and good evening, members. The application is for the erection of extensions and alterations to the existing chalet bungalow and the demolition of the existing garage. I'd like to draw members' attention to the update sheet, which notes that whilst there was one letter of objection to the proposal, this was received in relation to the original plans. Following the receipt of amended plans which reduced the scale and bulk of the proposal and altered the design, all neighbours and consultees were consulted and no further objections were raised. And further to that, as a verbal update, I've been in correspondence with Dockinfield Parish Council today and have received an email confirming that they are happy to support the revised scheme when they did object to the original plans. This, however, hasn't altered the officer's recommendation as set out in the report. Members will note that the item is recommended for refusal on one ground, as insufficient ecological information was submitted in support of the scheme. Members are asked to consider whether the proposal is acceptable on all other grounds. This slide shows the location plan. The application site is to the north of the street in Dockinfield, and the site comprises a detached chalet bungalow and a detached garage, and there are residential properties to the east and west. Here we see the aerial photograph. This area to the rear is the garden area of Hawthorns, and we see Midhurst and Avernus on this side. In a bit more detail here, we see the block plan shows the outline of the garage, which would be demolished as part of the proposal, and the extensions and alterations to the dwelling would remain on the same footprint as the existing dwelling, with the exception of a porch, which I'll show you on the elevations. Now some photographs of the site. Photograph A is taken from the southeast, from the street, looking towards the neighbouring dwelling, Avernus, which is here. Here we see the front gable of the bungalow. Photograph B is taken from the street looking towards Midhurst here, which is a 2-storey detached dwelling. Photograph C shows the detached garage at Hawthorns, and D is looking at the bungalow. Photograph E is taken from the rear of the existing dwelling. F is looking at a slight angle down their rear garden. G is taken from the east, looking towards the western boundary, and H is taken from the west, looking towards Midhurst. So proposed elevations, the proposal would increase the maximum roof ridge height by 2.1 metres, but as I said, would retain the existing footprint, with the exception of this porch canopy here, which, as you can see, is just a canopy, it's not a solid porch. Whilst the proposal would increase the scale and bulk of the dwelling, as the detached garage would be demolished, the proposal would consolidate the spread of built form, and generous separation distances remain to the boundaries. This slide shows the proposed floor plans. Again, we see the same footprint is retained. So the matters for consideration: impact on countryside, AGLV, design and visual amenity. The proposal has an acceptable design and would use appropriate materials. Officers consider that the proposal would not result in material harm to the intrinsic character and beauty of the countryside and would respect the landscape. In terms of residential amenity, we consider that the proposal has an acceptable impact as it remains on its existing footprint, and there are no first floor windows proposed on either side elevation. In terms of parking, sufficient parking would remain on site. And as I said at the start, the one issue that officers have had with the proposal is that Surrey Wildlife Trust were consulted on the proposal and determined that insufficient information has been submitted in order to determine the likelihood of active bat roosts being present and therefore affecting the development. Further surveys are required to be put forward for consideration along with any avoidance and mitigation proposals, and for this reason officers are recommending refusal. Members are asked to consider the acceptability of the proposal in all other means. The reason why the application has come before you in this form is so that members are asked to kind of consider the acceptability of the proposal, so we are able to advise the applicant whether the proposal is acceptable in all other terms. Thank you, Chair.
Councillors.
Thank you, Chairman. I called in the original design because there were significant objections, and Dockenfield Parish Council also objected to it. Now that all those objections have been withdrawn, I obviously support this application.
Okay, Councillor Deere.
Thank you, Chairman. I would go along with what I've just heard. Insofar as the lack of environmental assessment is concerned, if that's the piece of paper that's missing, would it not be the common sense solution to make a satisfactory report a condition of a consent if it was the application was acceptable in every other way?
Thank you, Chairman. The officer's report sets out that that's not the kind of correct practice in terms of a protected species. So we've got Circular 06/2005, which says that it's essential that the presence is established at the point we make the decision. I think the difficulty is that you put a condition on, you don't necessarily know what might crop up. So actually, the best practice is to either have the information up front or refuse. But I completely understand where you're coming from. Thank you.
I mean, it is an interesting point, and I think it's one that has a little bit of ambiguity in terms of how local authorities apply that particular strategy. I think in this instance, when they haven't done a bat roosting survey, i.e. the first stage of that survey, it avoids that. It avoids the certainty of the planning authority making at least that determination, and then some authorities will apply a condition where you have an emergent survey as a second phase in breeding season, because a lot of these, the breeding season is quite narrow. So some authorities do apply a condition that enables that to happen beyond the condition, but in this instance we haven't got that opportunity. So unfortunately, this seems a little bit of a frustration, but we have to adhere to that as the principle.
Mr. Chairman, once you grant planning permission, it's very, very difficult to rescind it, and you're in a compensation scenario.
Councillor Isherwood.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an application from January this year, and here we are in September, which I find a little sad. When I look at the BAT survey, it says from desktop research of local records, it appears to be blah, 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 and so on. I believe this was only reported in July. Is that correct? From the Surrey Wildlife Trust?
Thank you. So to backtrack slightly, one of the reasons for the delay was unfortunately one of our colleagues left the council, so there was it got passed to me, so that was a slight delay. And in terms of the consultation with Surrey Wildlife Trust, I just believe they took some time to get back to us, which was another unfortunate delay in this application.
Yes, so the applicant could have gone for non-determination, couldn't he, back in March. Just looking at it, I find the design to be, as Councillor Adams said, quite acceptable. It's good in the street scene. It fits in with most of the buildings in the street. So, you know, apart from the bat problem, which we haven't overcome, I find this application totally acceptable, just the bat.
Councillor Adams, do you want to add something to what you've...
I was wondering if we could just delay the decision and transfer it to delegated powers when the BAT survey is delivered.
You stole my thunder there. yeah, I think that's just defer it until we receive the decision report. Is that adequate? Also,
It's all right.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I don't want to say very much apart from, the idea of the condition, whilst I understand it, I think those who have been on the council for the last 12 years or whatever know, once a condition is applied, it's generally a waste of paper because to enforce them is virtually impossible. So I'd be totally opposed to anything like that. And now I've heard about defer. If we defer it, they can go to non-determination. I think we need to make a decision. And we do have a policy under the most recent local plan, and if we start ignoring policies willy-nilly, then we're on a slippery slope to always doing it. Thank you.
We can tell the applicant that everything else is okay.
right, okay. Officers, do you want to say anything else? No. Any other councillor want to speak? Right, okay. Oh, Councillor, yes, okay, last minute.
Sorry, Chairman. We did ask if this could go to officer determination after the BAT surveys come in. Is that agreeable to the officers? Or is...
Thank you, Chairman. It would be quite a long period of time in this instance because of the amount of time it would take because there's a pause in when you can do these survey works. So actually, it's kind of before you tonight, so I'd suggest actually the officers are suggesting refusal. Philippa wants to add something.
I meant to say when Councillor Isherwood asked the question, another part of the reason why it took some time is we invited amended plans from the agent to reach a scheme that we thought was acceptable. It's my understanding from discussions with the agent that they would like to know whether the committee is of the view that it's an acceptable scheme, hence why they've proceeded with this refusal, which I appreciate is an odd circumstance to bring to you.
And just to be clear, also the applicant has the right to a free go a year after any decision is made, so they have a year to come back in with the proposals and the BAT survey. That's the position, and we would recommend that that's the position we should go for cleanliness.
Okay. Can I ask Mr. Burris?
It was just, no, I think Patrick has said it. Basically, as long as, if we have a sense that every other issue is acceptable, and I am getting that sense, we would be very happy to pass that on to the applicant, and then we can keep to the fact that it is policy in the local plan, and that we've kept clean, and they have a very clear response to be able to make at the appropriate time.
Okay. Any other councillor wish to speak? All right, we'll move to the recommendation that permission be refused.
Eight in favour of refusal.
Abstentions? 2, 3, 3.
Sorry, that must have been 7.
It must
in
have
that
been
case.
7, otherwise...
Yes, otherwise the numbers don't add up. So,
Yes.
Councillor Deere, I've noted that you abstained.
Yes.
Chair, before we move on from this item, if the BAT survey, can we just have an indication so we can go back, when we go back to the applicant, if the BAT survey had been present, can we have a little indication of who would have supported it in that presence?
Oh, yes, okay, yes. I think you got unanimous there.
So thank you.
A little variety, nothing? Okay, fine. Right, okay, members. Diversion. And we move on to the last item for the night. That is the WA 2019-1016, 10 Cottage, Pathfields, Hazelmere, and proposal erection of a single-storey rear extension. And we're back to Olivia.
Thank you, Chairman. The application site is located to the west of Pathfields, shown here. The aerial photograph shows the site here. The application site comprises a semi-detached 2-storey dwelling, shown in the photographs here. Photograph A shows the rear of the dwelling, photograph B shows the front, and the side is shown in photograph C. The application proposes the erection of a single-storey rear extension, shown on the block plan here. The proposed rear elevation shows the pitched roof, single-storey extension, the erection of a new staircase to the side. The side elevations show the proposed extension extending of the rear of the dwelling. The proposed floor plans are shown here. Officers consider the proposal would be acceptable in terms of visual impact and impact to neighbours, and is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillors, anybody wish to speak to this? Mr. Deere.
Thank you, Chairman. I've been and had a look at this. I can't see any problem with it. It's a small extension on an existing building. Can't see that it's objectionable as far as the neighbours are concerned. And yeah, no problem as far as I can see.
Councillor Rubini.
Yes, I agree with that comment, and in fact, it would probably tidy up that particular area, and it looked better with that than it would before.
Councillor wish to speak? No, okay. I should. How can I forget you?
Thank you, Chairman. I was just going to say, knowing the area, it's very much in keeping with the that part of Hazelmere, and I find it totally acceptable. If you go down that particular road, you will find many different extensions, not all at the back, some at the front, and rather spoil the street scene. This doesn't. It fits in with the, again, the Hazelmere design statement. So I'm happy to support.
Thank you very much. Any other councillor wish to speak? No? All right. Well, we're ready. Recommendation that subject to conditions 1 and 2, an informative one, permission be granted. Those in favour, please. Thank you very much.
That's all in favour.
Thank you.